But moving to Horseshoe Bay to have our final Nancy Drew reaction to season 3 before we're here, y'all. We caught up. The journey is basically done in the sense of us kind of trying to catch up with you guys, and it's interesting. These last 2 episodes are quite something for a lot of reasons.
A
Yes.
lot went down. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still trying to like figure out what I think about it.
Oh, okay. Well, let's start in episode 12 with the trying to track down Lev. How did we feel about that plot, or were the other things plotting more?
Mm. They were unsuccessful in trying to track down Lev. I'll say that much. I'll say.
Oh, poor Lev. Um, anyway, I thought that they put together the different groupings rather well, and then bringing the storyline back together. This idea that we have to track down Lev in order to stop Temperance, but at the same time, the babies at the youth center are truly, truly going through it with this hex, while also balancing the fact that Nancy has to negotiate her feelings for 2 of her men as she works for things.
I have a question. Why were the kids at the center so late?
Uh, what did Nick say? Nick said that they were doing a game night. So presumably they had the kids text their parents to be like, we're gonna have a late night game night at the youth center. Be back
It was like
later.
midnight though.
Oh, it was? Oh, that I guess these parents just
Yeah, because
wasn't
at one
being
point when they were doing the ritual, didn't Beth say it needs to be midnight or something?
That's right. I think so.
Oh,
I'm like, what? Did they have a sleepover? I don't know. I was confused. I was like, are their parents aren't like, can you release the babies? They just like all had blankets and bleeding noses on the sofa, and I was like trying not to poke holes in it because like this is a supernatural show and like it doesn't need to make a ton of sense. But I was like, why are they there?
I guess we should have already had it be an overnight thing where they were all there with their jammies and their I guess sleeping bags to have a youth center jamboree type style like movie night or something, and it just went downhill real fast.
Yeah,
for
like a
them.
lock-in, that you would do as a kid in elementary school or grade
Yeah.
school. I don't know what you guys call it in the UK, Michael. I'm sorry.
Neither do I. It'll come to my primary school.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there it is. I have a gripe with Bess about this storyline. And I mean, by the end, we were all like, yes, Queen Bess, save the day, icon. But the reason the whole thing happened in the first place is because Bess wouldn't leave well enough alone. I knew I had a feeling the minute that she spoke the curse into existence, that it would come, that it would be spoken into existence. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happened. Nick was like, no, Bess, don't. And she was like zooming in to find things out. And I feel like we do this with Bess too much, and that she reacts first and then asks questions later. And I know she needed answers and that Nick was keeping secrets from them, but I feel like there was a conversation there that would have had some middle ground. It was like, I know something's happening, but I can't tell you because it will have dire consequences. Literally, that's exactly what Temperance told me word for word. And I feel like Bess would have backed off a little bit and maybe trying to find out a little bit slower. I get we had to force the scenario, but I feel like too often does Bess rush in and then has to be the one to make up for it. And she did make up for it in the end. Congratulations. But we're at the end of a season where Bess is supposed to have underwent a lot of growth. And I remember the 3 of us did not like the storyline she was involved in the first episode. And she's still exhibiting some of those characteristics by the end of it. She did grow in the end. She did save the day in the end. But I just feel like we didn't need to be that extreme to get there, if you know what I mean.
Not to pile on Bess, but I feel like her character has been the most changed over the seasons. And some of it's good. I really like to see her be confident and step into her own. But there's a humor that's been missing from Bess this season. Like, I don't know, season 3 Bess and I didn't always get along. And that's okay.
Yeah, I think she had been so strongly involved in like family, wanting family for like 2 seasons, and we kind of did that in season 3. I think that was supposed to be the reason why she was so enamored with the women in white, but then that fell away, and so did most things about like romance. So then you're left with just witchy Bess, which is like a whole new thing for this season. I feel like maybe the other characters' arcs made a bit more sense for their journey. That we land with Bess being the more knowledgeable one about supernatural things, which is not something that I think anyone would have expected, having watched the first two seasons. I too struggle with her for season 3. And in this episode, not the magic stuff. That was all great. It was the rushing in. And couldn't we have just written it down on a pad? Then been like waving it around at him so that we could discuss. I mean, she is the type of person who would speed through, but in certain it feels like she should have learned that she should not do that by now because of all the things she sped through in season 3 that did not turn out in her favor.
And again, not to go back to the whole 2 weeks thing, but I feel like this is an issue with this season coming across only over 2 week period because it does kind of feel a little bit rushed. So you're telling me that 2 weeks ago Beth had absolutely no magic experience whatsoever, and she's performed 16 rituals in between. There's not enough days in the week for that, Pat. But also on top of that, she's grown so much, but also reverted so much. And I mean, that's far too much character development for 14 days, considering we didn't really land on which version of Bess we wanted to be by the end of the season. Also, she's been in charge of the Historical Society now, and I know we'll get to that. Her relationship with Addie has been on and off. I just feel like this season needed more episodes, and this is not the only story that's can be said about, but I just feel like the season needed more episodes to kind of give the characters the authentic growth they kind of needed. And that still came across in the final 2 episodes for me.
I think with just to move into the whole Nancy, Park, and Ace thing, I thought, what did I think about how they handled it this episode? I still feeling a lot of fire from Nancy and Park for us to end the episode with her choosing Ace, which is completely fine. But I was like, definitely need more episodes because I don't know why we are on fire over here. But then also being like, well, he talked to me and I kind of want to figure out what this is over here. And so I think we're great as friends. And I'm telling you this while we're trying to save children's lives. So we don't really have other time to do it. So here it is. And poor Ace was like a puppy the entire time, just waiting to hear, can we talk about it? Can we say something? And I did like that Park was clocking it though, because Park was giving I forget what his line was, but they're in Icarus Hall and he's talking to her, and you realize partway through his sentence that he's talking about her familiarity with Ace, and he's trying to tell her, it's familiar and that's comfortable, but you should try. Open your eyes to new arenas, that arena being me. Let's focus on our romance that is sparking right now. And she was kind of into it, and then Ace interrupted them. And then she was confused again. But I'm glad we got an answer to what she was going to. Well, we knew this was coming, but that she chose Ace in this episode.
But didn't she break things off with Park before she even talked to Ace in that scene where they're taping the ground and everything? And yeah. No follow-up question.
I do want to say, you said that there's still so much fire between Park and Nancy, and I agree with that in general, but I feel like these episodes dialed it back a lot so that it would make her ultimate choice all that easier. And I hate when drama shows do that, because I'm like, the reason you were supposed to be struggling between two worlds was because both of them were presenting solid cases for you. And I don't feel like the Park Nancy dynamic was presenting any kind of case in that episode because the writers did not want it to, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I feel like the previous episode, the chemistry between them two was on fire. Maybe they're trying to go for the whole that Nancy kind of got that out of her system. I don't know, but I just feel like I'm sad. Nace 100%. I am Nace 100%, but I feel like I'm sad this happened in this season because I feel like Nancy and Park had more room to grow before it ultimately didn't work, and I just feel again could have done with more episodes.
That's the difficult thing, though, because I feel like each relationship Nancy's had, I've liked them all. I've enjoyed watching them all, even if we know Nace is the finish line. And just it just feels like Park got cut short, that story, a little bit. And then all of a sudden it's just we're taking a step forward, 3 steps back with Ace. It's every conversation they have, it's kind of we're slightly getting what we want and we're moving away from that. That happened a lot in these 2 episodes. It has stressed me out.
It's one of the reasons why I was not feeling the Nace progression in this. Let's just move into episode 13 in these last two episodes. And I think it's because, we set the case for them moving forward in episode 12. We're excited about it. We get to episode 13. And not only do we move backward, but its main progression happens in a dream and then is completely erased. And they're separated by a curse. And it's my least, I hate that when it's not built well. To me, it's not earned. I felt like we needed more episodes for that. Not only for like the curse to have weight to me, but also for the choice Nancy ultimately makes at initially. Like, so just to give the opening for the episode, where of course Temperance was like 5 steps ahead, even though I'm not sure why they thought they were even close to her chessboard. And we get to when the hole is opened and Nancy's got her hatchet raised and she's gonna like kill her. And then you get this dream sequence with Nancy where her dad, Ryan, dad number 2, dies. And he and she's grieving, and then she has that conversation with Ace 30 days later, and then we're initially like we're being intimate with each other, which is something she tends to do when she's upset, which is another reason why I didn't want that scene right there. And then he dies, which apparently was like not supposed to happen. That's what Temperance decides she's gonna put into that future. And initially Nancy decides not to kill Temperance. She's like, screw the town. I want my chance at love. And I was like, I get it, but I don't like how it's executed. And when she draws it back, and it clearly weighs on her when she thinks that the people people might have died in the town because of her hesitation. But I was just like, y'all did not do enough with Nace to me for that to be a hesitance, sure, but to decide to sacrifice the town to be with Ace and have a future with Ace when she didn't even get 30 days. She got 4 hours. She went from afternoon to nighttime. And she's like, but our life together is like, there's no guaranteed life together. You saw 4 hours of your life together. It's not the same thing.
Sorry, were you going to say something, Reed?
I was just gonna agree. Like, I feel like we needed a little bit more of like actually getting what we wanted from them, getting that payoff. Because, okay, I'm been consuming way too much content this week, and it's all blending together, and I'm forgetting the episode already. Did the scene where they hooked up, was that real?
No.
No.
Oh, God, I forgot that.
Yeah, it's a dream. It happens after so there's 2 situations. When they first find out Ryan, but it was after she killed Temperance in the dream. She's upset, but then Ace is like, can we like have a moment? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, she just killed someone. Are we going to ask how she's doing? We're not. Okay, we're just going to go straight to her feeling better by being intimate, which is something she does all the time. Then we hop and she's grieving Ryan still. And then she gets to talk with Ace, and he says, you saved everybody. You're a hero. And then they're intimate again, and she feels better. And then we go on. I'm like, can Ace and Nancy get together in a situation in which she's not responding to trauma? And they think that's like my main, gripe number 2.
I mean, it still happened at the end too. It's still, I mean, okay, I did watch this episode, so like I knew that the curse was coming. Like I've known this since we started the series. Because I watched the season 3 finale way out of context to see if I wanted to watch the show. It's just me. I don't know. So I knew that they were the only 2 images I remembered from this episode were Nick running in the street calling out for George. So when I watched this, I had no idea that they were broken up. I had no idea what the situation was. And the scene with Nancy and Ace hooking up, which watching this out of context is wild because I didn't know what was real. It was so confusing. And then obviously the end with the curse, and then seeing it in context now, like I just hated seeing Nancy have to say those things to Ace in order for her to sever the tie, so she doesn't have to deal with their feelings together, so that she doesn't kill him. by acting on her feelings. Like I was just like, ugh, not in the mood for a tragic romance. Like not in the mood for it. Yeah, I don't think I have any more thoughts beyond those. I'm still like metabolizing the end of the season.
Mm. I want to say I'm very, very mixed on it. I hate when they do storylines like that, but it also produces some great episodes. Remember Sabrina, the episode 15 of The Flash, when Barry and Iris grow close, and then Barry tells Iris he's the Flash, and then they have their first kiss, and Barry has to go back in time to stop a tidal wave, and all of that is undone. And then he messes wasn't it? And then he messes everything up by saying, Iris, I love you, by rushing everything, and she's like, what? And so it just they messed everything up, and I feel like that's what they're going to do with Nace now. Um, and it makes sense as a convention, but I just wish we kind of didn't go there in the finale. They haven't had their actual on screen first kiss yet. So the minute when it cut to like the hookup scene, I was like, the only other time we've seen them kind of like this intimate was the steamy dream as well. I was like, is the show not doing first kiss with them? I feel like the fact that it consistently skipped over that moment, I was like, yeah, this isn't real. I don't know why, something about me was just telling me this is not a real moment. And the same thing with the fact that Ryan's death was skipped over. I was like, come on now, this guy's got done so much growth and been such an integral part of the show. Are you really telling me we didn't
And the
have any
fact that
time?
her calling him dad was not real,
Mm-hmm.
jail.
um, but yeah, all of it was I feel like this episode needed more time. I love the fact that we didn't dance about the fact that Ace was having dreams. We got right into it. They made the deal with Temperance very much. But I feel like if this episode had been even more effective, the previous one should have ended with Nace killing Temperance and Ryan dying, and then we picked up where the flash forward started with this episode as the finale, and then 35 minutes into it, our world is turned upside down by like, that was a flash forward, it's not real. That would have been more effective to me, but just the sudden time jump in the middle of the episode made me completely aware of the fact that none of this was real. Also, the fact that the lighting was different, it kind of gave it away for me. It ruined the surprise. I feel like Ryan deserved better, so I was like, the show would have given him better. So I knew it was a flash forward and that it wasn't real. So all in all, I think what they did was effective. I just think there were ways to make it more effective, if that makes sense. I love the Nancy and Ace scene. I feel like it was definitely worth the wait for, but I just not sure we got there in the way I wanted us to get there, if you know what I'm saying.
Okay, now that we're talking about it, I'm getting fired up, but I need to preface the things I'm going to say next with, I liked the episode. I like the show. I like the season, but it's okay to like, as a fan, be like, oh, why did this happen? I've reached my quota of Ace being in danger. Even though he died in the car accident and that was not real, I was like, why am I watching Ace die again? And him having the dream and having Charity's soul piece in him, I was like, I've reached my limit. I can't, like, he's my favorite character. There, I said it. He's my sweet prince. I love my Ace. Stop doing that to him. He gets nothing. And again, he was saying to Nancy, like, I felt like I was lacking. And look, I've got a new job. I've got a new apartment. And she said, you never were lacking. And I don't know. I'm just super protective of Ace beyond Nace. Like, at the end of the day, I don't care about that, which oh God, that's controversial. Like, I care about Nancy and Ace separately more than I care about them together. And that shouldn't be as polarizing as it sounds. But like, I just want good things for them. And I understand this show deals in trauma a lot and deals in like, it just felt like twisty for the sake of being twisty, of being like, oh, here's another fork in their road. But as a fan, I was like, I wanted to see them win more before we get to this point where it's like this epic forbidden romance, because they haven't really had like that moment. Like, we saw it more with Park. That's why I think we kind of were enjoying watching that. And we do enjoy the like, will they or won't they with Nancy and Ace, but I don't know. I wanted a little bit more. And the scene with the fake scene with them hooking up, that was what I wanted. It was a lot more than I thought we were gonna get. Just seeing him smile and be happy, like, we don't see that from Ace a lot. So like, me seeing him constantly be putting in these situations where, I mean, he's not the only one. Like, George constantly has been in danger. obviously Nancy puts herself in those situations. Like she took on a whole hex, like every hex, and she knew that she was going to survive. But like, I don't know. I'm just like, I'm tired of watching Ace be mad at himself, nearly die, whether it's real or not. I don't, they just, the cards they deal him, I'm like, can we shuffle the deck again?
No, I get it though, because not even structurally, it is a solid episode.
It
I
is.
think
It's a great episode of television, not to interrupt you,
Mm-hmm.
but like, I just want to make sure people know, like, I think it hits all the beats. Like, we're shocked. We're like, where is this coming from? It's a great episode of television, but like within that, we can still, um, anyway, continue.
well, I was gonna say it's a solid episode. I just don't like the Nace bits. And it's not Nace, it's the structure of everything that happens. And to your point about it being Ace all the time, when something is in danger, when he woke up from the dreams, I'm like, of course it's Ace. Of course it is. Why would it be anybody else at this
Yep.
point? We're at the penultimate episode of the season. Nancy's finally ready to be in a relationship. We're gonna get a roadblock. I thought like putting my I'm gonna put some of this to the side just to say something positive. I thought that the opening sequence of the episode is probably one of the best things they've ever done. As they shut off one by one what they were doing before they decided to confront Temperance, and they weren't ahead of her at all. But it was lovely seeing the Drew crew just throw themselves into this mission. They each had something important to do, and Nancy's just there popping donuts, and we're like, clearly there's something here that you need the donuts for, because why would you keep doing that? And then the group realization that their plan isn't going to work out, and Temperance didn't actually need the Copperhead for anything. She just needed him to collect what and she needed the last piece. And I thought the sequence of trying to kill her, gorgeous. Like the very simple, like special effects, but quite effective. Sequence of the town being flooded by a tsunami, also gorgeous. Like it is for me A minus. It's an A minus finale. It's the Nace stuff that is bothering me, and I think it's because of what it says about the two of them. Like if Nancy's willing to give up Horseshoe Bay's safety for Ace, I need to see that built into the ship. Like I really, really do. That was a very heavy decision, and yes, she took it back. But to be in a position where the potential of my life with him would lead me to sacrifice a whole town, when he's like, that was a lot. Like I was like, okay. And then what was the other part? Oh, I need them to really get to the heart of why Ace feels like this, about why he feels less than. Maybe it'll be in season 4, but they haven't built it yet. And I'm like, what is it? Why do you
Like
feel
who's feeding him this?
I want to know, because it's like Nancy is intelligent and she's amazing. She's the best private investigator in Horseshoe Bay. But young ma'am is also a waitress. You both are both in the service industry. It's not like it's a rich to poor scenario where he would feel less than because of his class. So I don't understand why he just feels like he's not enough for her.
And at the end of the day, his dad threw him out in the middle of an argument, which was way out of order. And then the dad tried to make amends for it. And fair play to Ace, he was like, "No, I'm going to sort myself out now." But none of that should have made him feel the way that it did. So I don't understand why he still feels like that. And I did think it was very effective that the month of Nancy ignoring him made him feel it accentuated what he was already feeling, but I'm still not sure I fully understand why he felt that way in the first place.
We probably just needed like one line from Amanda that just like hit him like a ton of bricks. Even though that was already like a hot mess and they had their issues. I don't know. I feel like you're right. We just needed to see like one little thing that like plants the seed of insecurity, because I know for me, like any insecurities I have, I can follow the thread all the way back to hear the first time someone said something to me that planted that seed and it bloomed and I couldn't get rid of it. Like everything comes from somewhere, even if it's just like scrolling on social media and you're like, oh, that person has their life together and I'm not that. Like it always comes from somewhere. And I know it's like not in the grand scheme of things, it's not the most important thing happening in the show, but when it becomes something important in this in the development of this couple, I do think we need a little something. And also to rewind a little bit to something you said, Sabrina, I didn't really need Ace to have the part of her soul for the stakes to be even more heightened. Like for me, the stakes were already pretty high. So adding it on to be Ace, I was just like, not one more thing. Like as a viewer, it stressed me out. But writing wise, I can see why they would make that decision. Like I'm sure they discussed who it would be. Would it have the same weight if it was some rando? I don't know. But for it to be Ace, I was like, the stakes were already scary, blood pressure raising heights for me. So I was like, I didn't really need that. It was just one more blow to the list. I also have other things that I might just keep for us to say later.
I cannot wait. To go back to stakes, I do want to also commend the episode for just managing to build such an end of world feel to it. I did say that my biggest issue with the Red Death arc in The Flash was she's running around the city and we're standing in Star Labs talking about it because we don't have the budget to show anything. Whereas this, you got to see the tidal wave, you got to see the people running away, you got to see George. Yeah, exactly. Yes. You got to see George sound off the alarm. Badass scene, by the way. Love George. So much stakes in such, like, that was what, maybe 2 minutes of the episode before Nancy reversed the decision. But like, you felt it, you were like, okay, finale feel. And again, so I just want to say, as a standalone episode, this was excellent. It's just some of the storylining leading up to it that ended up holding it back in the end. But I do think as a finale, it functioned incredibly well.
So can we talk about the prophecies? They haven't come true, right? They just like,
no, they did.
Did they?
Yeah. So when they're reading it at the end, they're showing us each person. So, I wish I remembered the order of the thing, but George is the one who betrayed her true love by going back on their relationship.
That was confusing because she looked at the shop window and saw a ring, and I didn't know. I was like, is that her ring? Did Nick pawn it? Oh, it was her ring. So Nick did pawn it.
Yes, so he could, I guess, redo the basketball court. And he gave up, so that was someone gives up something that means something to them. That was Nick.
Okay. See, I was confused by the prophecies because I thought the scenes over the voiceover was like, this is how they are going to come true. I didn't realize they did come true.
Yeah. Well, it's also confusing because the prophecies weren't as weighty as we thought they were going to be. So like someone brings chaos to the town that was Bess with the truth serum. Like, and I was like, oh.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense, but it was almost so subtle I missed it.
I thought it was foretelling like, oh, she's the historical society person now and she's gonna flop.
That's what I thought too, until she mentioned the truth serum and she was closing the box. I was like, oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, and it feels like maybe it's gonna come back or something because she's like putting it away and it's like, that's not gonna work out for you, but good luck.
And then I think Nancy was fulfilling destiny to the fall of everybody else, which she now has things to investigations.
Yeah, but wasn't one like one will be the other's undoing or demise or something, and it's Nancy and Ace?
It might be Nancy and Ace, or it might be Ryan. I don't remember who it was over because Ryan made a trade with that random magical couple that he thought was in the first car. Yeah. So like that's gonna be in season 4 for sure. So that might be him or it might be Nancy and Ace. I'm not really sure, but I think the voiceover was over his scene, so it would have been him.
Interesting. I'm sure we'll find out in the comments because our brains are swirling with everything that happened.
I know. It is so much. I think what else happens? Oh, Nick's parents are in Horseshoe Bay and then he's going to Florida. That's real.
I don't understand why he's going to Florida.
I think healing. I think because he hasn't been back since he was in juvie, I think is what they're saying. So he's going to go back to Florida to do some healing because he felt guilty about the kids. He just felt a lot of guilt about everything else that's happened in town. And Addie managed to get him to not sign over the entirety of the youth center to her. So it has an open clause that if he wants to come back, he can subsume the lead of it. I don't quite understand that because I don't know how you sign over an entire youth center to your one. Wasn't she a volunteer? You're one volunteer for the past 14 days, but okay. And then Bess is historical society keeper, and George is going to take classes at the community college. At least that's the path that Nancy put her on. Very happy about that. George is going to be the best lawyer that Hershey Bay has ever seen.
Definitely. So excited for her about that. It was really interesting, by the way, that Nancy got to say, that's again something you'd see on The Flash, how the future didn't play out exactly the way it did in her dream because she changed a few things. So she was kind of annoyed that George wasn't following the law route. So she had to kind of convince her to do that. And then Bess was going to assume the historical society, even though in the previous one timeline, she didn't want to do that. So it is interesting to see how it's all playing out. And you almost couldn't tell from the whole sense of melancholy whether Nancy was happy that things were playing out differently or she was sad that they were playing out differently. And I know that stems from the fact that her and Ace can't be together, but it was an interesting approach because they're like, am I supposed to be happy that Bess is committing herself to all these supernatural entities for the rest of her existence? Or would I prefer her to go and take a supernatural break? You know what I mean? There's a lot of emotional gravity in that scene.
Yeah, Bess was the one that kind of tripped me up because, like, in the dream when she was like, "Oh, I'm not going to do it," I was like, "That's probably the best option." And then in the reality, she doesn't do that. It was the only one that kind of felt like Nancy was kind of like, "Huh? We're not doing it, or we're doing it." That was the only one that I was kind of like, I don't know how Nancy feels about that. I don't know if that's a good thing.
Yeah, she left it open. I'm surprised because she convinced George to go the path that she dreamed, but she didn't convince Bess to go the path that she dreamed, which was, I don't know what that says about like if Nancy was just gonna stay out of that one, or not. I guess we'll figure that one out, later. I guess in season 4, it is interesting. I mean, they need her there. Everyone's neatly in the boxes they need to be in. I think George's box worked better than everybody else's, but George is going to learn law things. Bess is at the Historical Society, and Ace is at the morgue. All of Nancy's close people, with exception to Nick, have something that she's eventually going to need as an investigator, which is very interesting. I know Ace said that he loves his job at the morgue, and there was a lot of talk about the morgue, but I don't remember him ever saying that that was like a dream or that's something that he really wanted was to work at the morgue. I feel like that came later. He randomly was applying, right?
I don't know.
I think so, because when he said it, I was like, oh, I feel like that's going to be such a perfect job for him. I just feel like he'll nail it there. But it didn't feel that out of the blue for me. Like maybe someone's had a conversation about it at some point, if you know what I mean.
Well, I know he was supposed to, I forget the morgue man's name, but Ace had missed an interview.
That's
and
right.
I said, oh, Ace wants to work at the morgue. Have we had morgue lines? We're going to go with it. Is what I decided while watching. But I don't know. For me, the series finale is a mixed bag. Oh, it's not series finale. Season 3 finale is a mixed bag, but mostly for Nace things. Everything else I actually quite enjoyed, and I hope Nace gets real content that happens in Nancy's real world in season 4, and that this curse thing. Can we manifest middle of the season that it's finished?
Hey, okay, wait. This reminded me when she's having the conversation with Carson in Icarus Hall, her new HQ, which I have questions about, but that's really not important. He was like saying like the gist of it I felt like was like, you're keeping this to yourself. And I had the same questions. I was like, Nancy, why don't you just tell Bess? Why aren't you guys like think tanking how to break the curse? That was my like, I was like, you're just gonna take it? That's not the Nancy I know.
That's true. And also the boundaries of the curse, there is no she doesn't have to do smoke signals or write on pads. She can just say it because the boundaries of the curse is just if you act on your feelings, he will die. It may not be a car crash, it may not be a disease, but it'll be something, and you won't know when it will hit him. He has an expiration date, which is interesting. So she could just find whatever that is, whatever curse that is. I don't know if we need that bug that flew out of Temperance's mouth. You have to go track that down in the woods. But
I mean, like, I feel like Bess has her books. I don't know. I just felt like we've done worse. We've dealt with worse things, and we've like studied. I don't know. Maybe that's gonna come. Maybe Nancy wasn't ready. Maybe she was just like, I forfeit, I surrender. I'll just open up my little investigation business in my great aunt's haunted mansion.
What was it you said, Reed, a couple of months ago? So many things can be solved by just one conversation, and I feel like they really could have talked about that. But yeah, the scene between Nancy and Carson, beautiful, absolutely
I mean, yeah,
beautiful.
if she had got run right to Bess, we wouldn't have gotten Kennedy's performance in that episode. So like, I gotta count my blessings. You know? Take the good with the bad.
that speech with her dad, I mean, that would be what you would want, your parent to tell you when you're struggling with something like that. I mean, the acknowledgement that her mom is her dad's soulmate, the beauty of not just having one soulmate in your life, the desire to move forward after losing a great love. Yeah, because they were like, she might move on.
And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is a lot all at once. And then the graves. Can we talk about the graves?
Zombies, maybe. Fingers crossed. Kind of want it.
She's gonna have to call Ace though.
Oh, for sure.
Morgue man. Body's missing. Like, that's your natural first call, right?
I don't think so.
How rude of that caller. Nancy just set up her own office so that she wouldn't have to deal with things like this. And he's like, meet me in the graveyard. Like, come on now.
We must know who the person is, though, because they changed their voice.
Yeah. I did not expect that ending. And also the fact they didn't turn up. So obviously she was supposed to see the graves like that.
But I lied earlier. I remembered this scene. I remembered the ending.
Okay,
I lied.
This is. I feel like it's set up a very funny or a very strange season 4. Could Nancy Drew doing zombies could be funny. Although we did see there was one episode of a little while ago where there was a haunted zombie. So maybe that's a sign of things to come.
Yes, but Beanie Watch. Beanie was on. She had the cashmere hat on when she went.
That didn't even click with me until I saw it just now.
We're back. Does this mean regression? It might mean
she's on her own.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh, Nancy.
Gotta get the Drew crew on the
payroll. Though, that even if I feel like this operated as both the season finale and like an open-ended series finale. Like if the series ended here, I would have been like, she's still going to be dealing with all this stuff, and that's natural. I feel like that would be an okay ending. Obviously, we want more because we have so many questions, but this would have been like a serve cliffhanger ending.
It would have been. The Nace shippers would have been pitchforks, which is understandable. But
mine would have been. I would have been like preheating it in the oven and sharpening the edges.
But it was kind of like Batwoman, and the adventures would always continue. That's exactly how Batwoman ended with a series finale like that. So it definitely had that. But of course, there would be the big Nace thing. Will Nick and George get back together? What is Bess actually doing? Has she made the right choice? There's definitely questions left. But yeah, I agree. It's the kind of cliffhanger that you would have been. The drama aside, as far as the Nancy Drew stories goes, it's the kind of cliffhanger ending you've been very happy with because the adventures will always go on even when we're not watching them.
True, but thankfully we do have a season 4. I can't paraphrase. We're going to read some of this. But so apparently in season 4, we're going to launch into a new investigation of a group of missing bodies, the bodies that were missing in the season 3 finale. They go missing in Horseshoe Bay in the cemetery, and they've either been dug up and stolen or have risen, hence why we want zombies, or at least I want zombies. So she's drawn to this case in a string of unexplained paranormal crimes that lead the Drew crew, so thankfully her team is still going to be intact for her, to believe that the literal sins of the town's past have returned to haunt the living, which that sounds amazing. Meanwhile, as Nancy struggles, she yearns for Ace, the man she loves. She also develops a slow burning attraction between her and the son of Ryan Hudson's newest enemies, which, we don't need it, but we're there. And then Nancy must decide whether this love interest is worth the ire of both her father and Ace. I wonder which father. I'm assuming Ryan.
Yeah.
And Ace is also going to be tempted by, or might be tempted by, a new relationship, which again, don't need it. And Nancy her exploits this season will bring the Drew crew to numerous standalone cases, stunning twists, humor, and unexpected romances. Oh, that scares me. who's who's going to unexpectedly be put together. In her efforts to protect her seaside town from the sins of its past, backfire. Oh, when it backfires, she must do the unthinkable to save her friends from both the supernatural and earthbound threats coming for them, and it could cost her everything and everyone she's ever loved.
No. Do you remember what I said in season 1 when she was the thing with her mom?
Yes.
I
We got
swear,
it, but
if she sacrifices herself in the season, I'm gonna be so mad at myself. I'm gonna be so mad at them. I don't like that last line of this. I don't like it. I'm scared. But I do. I like it says standalone mysteries because that's something that we asked for and that we wanted and that we missed in season 3. So I mean, I'll focus on that instead and ignore that the last sentence exists and what that could imply.
And the Nancy Drew investigation set up as the perfect thing for some standalone cases like Angel, Private Investigator. I hope we get to see more of them and that it's not just a single 13-episode story.
Oh, I hope we get a film noir style episode for her. And I'd love if we did an homage to like original Nancy. Like not like would they do a time warp in the last season that brings us to the 60s? They may, but it'd be interesting.
I mean, I hope we have some like weird screwball episodes in the final season. Like, now's the time. Do what you got to do. Musical episode.
Fun because Kennedy can sing.
Yes.
So I would love it.
Her talents are endless.
They are. Oh, I misspoke. That wouldn't be the 60s. It'd be the 30s, right? For Nancy Drew.
That's about when she showed up, right?
My knowledge of Nancy Drew begins and ends with this show. So
mine's vague, but that's about it.
Oh, okay. And before we end the pod, manifesting Hardy Boy things. I really need Ace to be a Hardy Boy. I've latched on to this theory and I cannot let it go. And I really hope he is one.
I know. I want the last name reveal in the last episode. I think that'd be so cool.
It would be. Fingers crossed. Please.
Guys, we made it to the end of Nancy. We did it.
We did it.
As the great scholars 5 Seconds of Summer once said, how did we end up here?
And that's where we're going to end it.